Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington Commanders update featuring the draft. How are you all doing? I'm checking in as I do each and every single week to give you all the latest and greatest information on all things draft. So, I'm going to make sure you get checked in and say hello. Make sure you already are locked in and loaded. It's a jam-packed show. And I know I have not told everybody who is going to be on the show. That was by design. I said, I'm not telling anybody who's on. You're going to have to watch the whole entire thing in order to know who is going to be featured on the Washington Commanders draft recap show. While we get into it, this is your reminder that this is a live Bowie television recording. Okay, everything we say and do here will absolutely also be on Bowie television. You all listen, this is going to be a marathon. This is absolutely going to be a marathon. This will be a long show. So I hope you all ate your dinner or brought your dinner because we're going to have guests all throughout the evening just sharing their thoughts. You all have sent some questions in, and I have those locked and loaded for the different guests. And as the segments come up, we'll let everybody in. So, you all look, are y'all ready? I see Cameron Mingo, I see Cedric Carter, John Adams, Eric Jessup. Have you all said hello to Mama Waller? Because she's gonna jump in anyway. She's gonna jump in anyway. So, you all listen, before our first guest comes on, and no, I'm not gonna tell you who it is. Let's go and let's do a track of all of the picks so far. As I'm going through these pictures here, make sure you drop in the chat what grade do you give the pick, and just share your overall thoughts while we're at it. How are you feeling about the Washington Commanders draft overall? So there's Emmanuel Forbes, Jartavius Martin, call him Quan, safety from Illinois. Then we have Ricky Stromberg, the center from Arkansas. Braden Daniels, offensive tackle from Utah. KJ Henry, edge from Clemson. Chris Rodriguez Jr., running back from Kentucky. Andre Jones Jr., defensive end from Louisiana. And I'm going to give you all a moment to take a look at this list of the 12 undrafted free agents. Check it out. Some of you all are familiar with these names. Any other questions? Drop them in the chat. So let's go to the chat. And I'm already seeing some draft grades, B-. And go ahead and drop in the chat as well why you gave the Commanders the grade that you're giving them. Cameron Mingo with the B-, Eric Jessup with the C+, Melvin Russ McCray with the B. Is it all right if I say that I don't have a grade? Can I give a grade? Can I give an I for incomplete? Can I do that? I'm maybe not. But if not, Joe, I guess I can. But listen, I'm excited. And I'm excited because a few things. One, I've gotten some sleep. So, I feel a lot better and refreshed. But I'm also excited because I get to bring on some of my colleagues who I talk to all the time. Some, maybe, I don't want to give you all too many hints. You may already know, but hey, we'll see. As they start to come on the show, you'll have to see. So here's the layout of the show, just so everybody knows. We're doing this in 10-minute segments. We'll try to have some breaks in between in case the conversation gets a little good, but the breaks in between is really just me talking to you all. I did get some questions in, so I'll have those locked and loaded for you all. But I see some other questions coming in already from Eric Jessup. So where are the O linemen? Picked up a couple, but expected a higher priority. We kind of have that question, coming up ahead about some of the position groups, but I'll tell you this from my perspective. And I shared this on, I think it may have been the season finale for the weekly DMV Sports Update. And it was this, that it sure enough seemed like the Commanders were very confident, extremely confident in the O lineman that they picked up during free agency. They seemed to be very happy. It just, I had that sneaky suspicion, and many of us talked about this while we were in the media war room, that it was confirmed that they really are happy with what they have so far. I guess who based on whom they're bringing back and who they picked up in free agency. So they did pick up an offensive tackle in the 3rd round. Of course, going back through the undrafted free agents that have signed. But I too was a bit surprised. But 3rd round for an O-lineman isn't bad. Let me say that. It's not bad, it's good, that's solid. But it was sure enough very clear to me that they were, that they were ready, and that they were absolutely kind of like, we're good at this position. And I see the First String Podcast has jumped in and said, I was not happy with them waiting to address the O-line. And we could talk a little bit about that too. Was I shocked about 2 defensive backs? We wasn't shocked about the 1st round defensive back. We knew, kind of was sold on that was going to be the position of need that they addressed first. Now in the 2nd round, while I can understand why they did it, I was absolutely shocked that they did in taking 2 DBs in the 1st and 2nd rounds. And we're going to have a question and talk about that as well. So, you all, what other questions do you have? Because as we're waiting for everybody to come on, I'm going to say, and everybody's not going to come on at the same time, like I told you. But I really want to make sure you all get your questions in. Here's why. Here's some dates that you all need to be paying attention to. Rookie camp. Media will be able to be there on May the 12th. So we'll be in the building for that. Absolutely excited about that. I think it's then May 24th, May 31st. And then there's some June dates as well. But I think I have the May dates locked in. I think. But I think May 12th for sure is the most important one. So here we go. We got our first surprise guest. Okay, you all know I talk about him all the time. This is my big brother in the sports media game. I'm just so excited. He said, absolutely, I'm going to be on the show with you. And I said, Lake, you got to pick a time. You got to pick a time, Lake. He was like, yes, you are. How you doing, fam?
I'm good, and I appreciate being the first guest.
Have you recovered from draft? Have you recovered from the week?
I mean, I think last night it started to hit me that it was over finally. Mm-hmm. It's getting a lot of mixed reviews as you've been talking about. Some fans are happy, some fans are not happy. But I think, in fairness, you have to give these young men a chance to prove their worth on the field and celebrate their moment, because it's a dream come true. Something that millions of people haven't had an opportunity to get to. So you have to let them enjoy their moment.
Yep, definitely. Now, Lake, people are already jumping in the chat. Like Cameron Mingo's like, my guy, Lake Lewis. Mama Waller is already on here. She's like, hey, Lake. So I didn't even tell my mom who was going to be on the show tonight. I'm like, nope, y'all got to wait. You got to wait. Now, I got to give you this question that just came through in the chat from Cameron Mingo. I'm going to give this one to you. It was, were you surprised Washington didn't take a QB or tight end in the draft?
Great question, my friend. And he follows me. I follow him. I appreciate that love. I wasn't surprised as far as the quarterback position because I think, look, when they brought in Jacoby Brissett, I think that almost cemented the fact that they felt comfortable with their quarterback room. We've seen when they've had three quarterbacks, that's been one too many. And you can go back to the days of Jay Gruden and Mike Shanahan and different guys. They only carry two quarterbacks, at least on the active roster. So I think Ron Rivera is kind of adopting that philosophy a little bit, of maybe Eric Bieniemy, who knows, kind of got him to see that. That's what they were doing in Kansas City as well, with Chad Henne backing up Patrick Mahomes. So no, I wasn't surprised. I think that, when we talk about drafting a quarterback to develop, why? Because the guy you're trying to develop is going to be your starter on day one, and that's Sam Howell. So he's backed up by a veteran professional backup. So I think, that made sense for them not to draft at that point, bring in some free agents, which they've done, undrafted free agents, to see what they can do. Also, as far as the tight end position, that kind of, it was a little shocking to say the least. Just from the standpoint that I think that, there were some guys that were sitting there when their picks were coming up. And, but I've been telling people for a long time, I truly feel like the four tight ends that they have on the roster right now, I just think that they can get the job done. I think, if you really look at their body of work, John Bates is a really nice young tight end. Maybe limited in some facets of his game, but he's a really good blocker and can do some things. Amani Rogers is a guy, I think, when they've given him an opportunity, he's done something. Cole Turner, we already know, the basketball background, and I think he could be a weapon if it all comes together. Obviously, Eric Bieniemy is the guy that'll see if he can pull it out of him. And then, of course, Logan Thomas, Candy. He's been injured. Last year, he came back from that injury and wasn't really himself. Takes a year for you to get your leg under you. And I expect for him to have a nice bounce back season this year.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, do they take a tight end or not? But we had so many conversations last year about was that tight end group even utilized?
No, not at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So not at all.
Yeah, I don't even know if Scott Turner had, tight end plays. And I mean, they really fell off, under his tutelage. And, we all know what Eric Bieniemy had in Kansas City, a Hall of Famer, and Travis Kelce. So that's a big part of their offense. And I do think that these guys have an opportunity as a collective unit. I think, the body of four can get you one. Obviously, they're never going to get what Kelce did in Kansas City because, like I said, he's probably one of the top two or three tight ends in history. So, all you have to do is get your tight ends collectively as a group to pull in maybe 60 catches in this offense with the weapons on the outside, and you're winning. That's going to be a good.
Yes, indeed. Now let's get into some other questions. I got to pull this up on the screen. These are some of the questions that came in early. And I wanted to give this one to you, like, because we talked about this. We talked about this over the weekend, which was about the pickup of Chris Rodriguez, right? And is this roster addition a greater impact on the futures of Antonio Gibson or Jonathan Williams? And then this comment came in. This is from Lamar Bland. Not only is Rodriguez a battering ram between the tackles and in short yard situations, but he's also a standout in blitz protection. So what does that pickup of Chris Rodriguez Jr. convey to you, Lake?
That they're going to have four running backs on the roster. So I think Patterson might be a guy that could be on the outside looking in, because I have talked to some folks and Bieniemy and company. They're high on Jonathan Williams. They like what he can bring to the table. He's tough, physical runner. And of course, Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson are really good young running backs, but you need to see a player on this roster that can maybe give you a burst. I don't know if any of those guys are game breakers. Antonio Gibson has speed, but they've asked him to become a more of a physical in between the tackles back. where you don't see that speed so much, and he's bulked up. So I just think that pick is a good move because people have to remember too in Kansas City's offense, they used fullbacks. That's a word and position that's kind of fallen by the wayside in the NFL, Candy. But
Yeah.
you know, Kansas City's definitely utilized kind of like an H-back look in their system. So clearly, the kid Rodriguez is exactly that, and that's exactly what he'll be in this offense. So he's got an opportunity to get some reps this year.
Definitely. And before we move on to the next question, let me remind everybody you're watching Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington Commanders draft recap. I'm here with my big brother in sports, Lake Lewis Jr., Commanders Insider, ABC News anchor. Make sure you're hitting that love button and sharing this show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends because we got Lake on and it's more to come. But Lake, here's another one for you. We talked about this one too. With what appears to be a log jam at outside corner, how safe is it to say that Kendall Fuller remains the veteran in that position group for his final year under contract? We talked about this a lot on Friday.
We sure did. I remember vividly having this conversation. I mean, the first reaction we got when they drafted Martin was Kendall's gone. Like you bring in a guy like that, and he's a weapon as a nickel, and the slot guy on top of that. Perhaps you move on from Kendall, but then we both thought about this. Who's going to be the veteran in the room, in the secondary room in general? Cam Curl. I mean, Cam Curl's capable, but Cam Curl will only be in his fourth year. So, that's a lot to ask for anyone back there in that secondary to become kind of like the face of the group. So if Kendall Fuller is held on to, it's specifically going to be because he can give guys great tutelage because he's an outstanding team player. Always has been about the team more so than himself. And, that's stuff that you can't really replace. But when it comes down to money, and I keep trying to tell people this too, you move on from Kendall Fuller, you save almost $8 million. And that's money that maybe you can use to put towards Cam Curl getting the deal. That's money that you can put down for, next year, or perhaps you have to re-sign a Chase Young or a Montez Sweat. So it just frees up some flexibility for you from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. In a comment that came through specifically about that from Courtlandt Griffin, I think Kendall Fuller is out of there unless he can make the jump to safety. I think Cam has the moxie and respect to lead that group. They definitely have a lot of faith in Cam Curl. We heard that repeatedly over last season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Cam Curl's my guy. I mean, I think as far as young guys on the team, I mean, he's a guy that gets it, and he plays hard. He's a physical player, smart. I mean, he's everything you want, and you're in a football player. And the thing is that, people I think are looking too much into the fact that they haven't re-signed him yet. I know he's been nicked up over the past couple of seasons, hasn't played a full season, but when he's on the field, he's a difference maker. He's definitely kind of a coach on the field for Jack Del Rio. So make no mistake about it, they value Cam Curl, and I like you and I were talking about, last week during the draft. I personally feel like they're going to get a deal done with him before the season starts.
Yeah, definitely. I get that sense as well. And so I want to share in the spirit of transparency, right? What that moment was like in the first round, Thursday night, when I know you and I had talked about Deonte Banks versus Joey Porter Jr. We had laughed and joked about that and our opinions on that. And then it was the revelation I had at that moment, like, oh my gosh,
I know
Christian Gonzalez is going to fall to the Commanders. I was just like losing it. And you were like, oh, MG. I was like, Lake. In all of the mock drafts, Christian was already gone.
It was almost to be true, right?
It was too good to be true. And we get there, and they pick Emmanuel Forbes, and it was like the air got sucked out of the media room because we were being loud about Christian Gonzalez. And then all we could think was, well, Fred Smoot will be happy. He's happy. We're happy that Fred is happy.
He was, and Fred let me know. He literally let me know that next morning, when Emmanuel Forbes was there in the building. Fred was just like a kid in a candy store. He couldn't stop smiling.
Yes.
Santana Moss, same thing. These guys love pick, and I think, when you look at the tape on Emmanuel Forbes, you just see a playmaker. He's a
Mhm.
danger. Forget the size. I mean, this guy's done it at the highest level in college football, the SEC, and he did it at a really good rate. For 2 years, this guy was, breaking records. So the one thing about this defense over the years is, as good as they've been as far as getting pressure on the quarterback and stopping the run and things like that, they haven't had any turnovers. And if you think about how good this defense could be if they can get a tip ball, if they can get a fumble recovery, if they can get a guy to step in on a route, and that's this guy, that's Emmanuel Forbes. So, as I said earlier, before people discount his game and make the comparisons, embrace this young man. I mean, he's a really good football player, obviously deserving to be a first round draft pick. And you just have to get behind him and hope everything works out for the best. And I think it will. I think he's going to be a pleasant surprise for people who really didn't know about him. One thing I will say, not to get long winded here, but if you look at who this guy covered in the SEC over the past couple seasons, it's like 5 or 6 first round wide receivers in that group. Jamar Chase, George Pickens. I mean, you name it. He went head to head with these guys and pretty much did great jobs on them. So, we're not talking about chopped liver here. We're talking about a guy that has a chance to come in here and make some noise.
Yeah, definitely. And a comment came through from Melvin Russ McCray that Forbes fit better with Jack's system. And he's not, and Jack isn't going to change how he runs his defense. We know that.
Yeah, I mean, he said, he told us, Candy, you remember, he said that
Yep.
he's played multiple things, so he doesn't feel like he's, better at any one type of coverage more than another. He said he can adapt, and he also said he's been asked to play different things, so he's comfortable, backpedaling. He's comfortable having his eyes read going forward. I mean, he's comfortable. And one thing I think you and I both picked up, as well as our media counterparts, the kid didn't lack confidence, but it wasn't arrogance. It wasn't brashness. He was very humble, quiet, well-spoken, but you could just tell he's been playing with a chip on his shoulder about his size for a long time,
Yeah.
and ready to shut people up in the pro level too.
Yep, definitely. Lake, thank you. Thank you so much. And there's more
Oh,
of this to come, everybody, because we all going to be spending a lot of time together here in the next few weeks in the season, like we do every year. But Lake, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
all right, keep doing your thing, sis. Good job.
All right, thank you. See you
Oh,
soon.
bye bye.
All right, you all check in, check in, check in. Are you all still with us? Bowie Television, CWall Sports and Entertainment. We're going down the list. I got some. My next guest is already ready. And actually, one of my guests came on a whole hour early, and they just waiting because they just wanted to get all this knowledge from Commanders Media. So hit that love button. Make sure you are sharing this show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends while I bring in my next DC Sports Media family member, also a big brother of mine, that is Mr. Lou Holder himself.
Hey, Candy, how are you?
I'm good, Lou. How are you?
Good. It was good to see you out at the draft party and all the happenings. It's that time of year. So it's always good to see the media family.
It is. And it's that time of year. Do we have a time off? It
No,
doesn't seem like okay.
no, the NFL has made it. NFL's the perfect marketing machine. They've made it so there are points throughout the entire year that you get excited about, right? After the season's over, after the Super Bowl is over, it's the draft, it's the combine, it's the draft, and then it's the OTAs. And next thing you know, you're in training camp. There's never a dull moment. And somewhere in there, the schedule comes out, so it's always like they know how to feed the machine. So no, our job is never really over because that's the one sport in this country that people just salivate over, and they've done a great job. So no, to answer your question, we never really have a time off if you're in a city that has an NFL football team.
That's right. And Lou, listen, and your little sister here would not gas you, right? I would not, like pump your head up. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to be very transparent. I was trying to catch all of the comments to put it up on the screen of, hi, Lou. Hey, Lou. Lou Holder. OMG, I'm a big fan. And I can't catch them because there's so many coming through all at the same time. So I just want to let you know there's some people watching that are very excited and happy to see you because I didn't tell anybody who was going to be on the show.
I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. And I'm so proud of you and what you're doing. And you're the next. You're the next. I did have a program at the Prince George's Community College where I honored women in broadcasting, and I gave a special invitation for you to come because we heard from some legends like Maureen Bunyan and Andrea Roan, and then we heard from some people currently crushing it on TV like Allison Seymour and Allison Starling. But then you're the baton. You're the next. You and Donna and Karita and so many others that I see grinding and doing a great job. I'm really, really proud of you, and just continue to rep it. Little sis.
I appreciate that. I so appreciate it. And you help keep me going when things get crazy. So I appreciate that. Now, we definitely got some questions in, Lou. Sure. So I picked out a couple and I said, I think Lou would like these. Mm-hmm. So here's one for you, Lou. And I think this came in from Russ McCray. And his comment was he finds it odd that there doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency with the Commanders and that there's still time to make moves. Is that your sense as well, Lou?
Well, I just think that there's more mature voices in the room now. I don't think that you need to. Well, first of all, you really can't do too much because although Ron Rivera would say that, he's in charge, but when you have ownership uncertainty, there's only so much that you can really do, right? And they only tell us so much when we go out to the park. And again, fan is short for fanatic, so you really can't. People go off their emotions. You got to be more. Stay the path. So sometimes when it takes longer to make moves, you're very apprehensive when you don't believe in the people at the top. But when you start to believe in people at the top, and when I mean people at the top, Martin Mayhew, Eric Bieniemy, you're seeing Ron Rivera. We go back and forth with Ron Rivera as Coach Ron. There's Coach Ron. Mm-hmm. And then there is front office Ron, right?
Yeah.
And the front office Ron and the coach Ron, sometimes, they clash. So he's wearing a couple of hats there. So you gotta keep that in mind. So mm-hmm. I'm not around moves and everything like that. The biggest move that this team made was not on draft day, was not, Emmanuel Forbes or whatever. The biggest addition was Eric Bieniemy, right? Mm. That's like their number one draft pick, right? Mm. So I'm just thinking that Washington was on the clock right after the Super Bowl when they got Eric Bieniemy and we went to that press conference. Everything after that is predicated, Candy, on the fact that they got Eric Bieniemy.
That's the truth right there.
They got Eric Bieniemy, which allowed them to go defense 1 and 2, right? Mm-hmm. And again, I wanted an offensive lineman. A lot of people wanted an offensive lineman. Yeah. But what that move basically said was, you know what? We are going to be because the takeaways, they only 26th in the league. They were bad at takeaways, right? Mm-hmm. Now this Emmanuel Forbes, who not only takes it away, he runs it to the house, right? Mm-hmm. Basically, what they're saying with these moves or with the first couple moves in the draft is that we are going to give you as short of a field as we can, Eric Bieniemy, and you just do your thing. And I like it. I like it. I mean, they did get a pick in the third round, an offensive lineman from Arkansas, a Razorback, a hog. So, I mean, like they did address it. I would have liked to have gone higher. But when you have Eric Bieniemy, I think that's the number one draft pick right there.
Yeah. I mean, we got a different type of pedigree in the room making these decisions.
Correct.
And they're looking at other things in a very different way. I mean, because he's looking from a Super Bowl champion
Yeah,
perspective.
and I've been here a long time, Candy. I mean, this is 21 years now I've been covering this team. And even when Sean was here, even when Sean Taylor was here, and they had Fred Smoot, and they had a lot of pieces. They even had Philip Daniels and Ronaldo Wynn, and they had Andre Carter. They had people that could get to the quarterback, but never like Payne and Allen, and then St. Just, and now Emmanuel Forbes. They got bigger, they got stronger, they got faster. Now the front and the back, there's no real huge weaknesses on that defense. So they got to turn this ball over. They got to be like the Ravens of the day. And again, when you are thinking about what happened, Ron Rivera was on that Bears team that was legendary, right? He knew when those guys turned that ball over and how they got to the quarterback, right? And he this is a Buddy Ryan disciple, right? So I'm not really surprised that they went after the defense like they did. I wanted offensive linemen, but because of Eric Bieniemy, that gave you a chance to go after defensive players 1 and 2.
Lou, that was an amazing point. I want to remind everyone who's watching, you are watching Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington Commanders draft recap from this year. Bowie Television, CWall Sports and Entertainment. Make sure you're hitting that love button and sharing the show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends. I'm sitting here with the legendary Lou Holder. And Lou, yeah, you don't laugh. Legendary Lou Holder. Like, thank you very much. And here's your next question.
Sure.
So this is a kind of loaded one, okay? But I think it's one that has been looming right since we know that a sale is underway and all of that. But how long is the rope for Ron Rivera? You know, your opinion. Do the new owners come in and clean house? What are your thoughts on just how big this season is for Ron Rivera as the head coach?
Well, I mean, it's big, but the ownership is not going to come in and clean house. At least not. I mean, because look how long it's going. Like, we're looking at May now before there's a decision. I grew up outside that Philadelphia area, and I keep in touch with a lot of the guys in there. Harris is not that type of person. They're going to. Ron Rivera is very respected in the NFL. He's not one of the Washington Commanders fans are frustrated sometimes with Ron Rivera, but the outside perception of the league, right, was the only thing that was actually reputable on the staff, right? No one really said, you know what, Scott Turner is the man, right? No one even really says that Jack Del Rio is just legendary. What they did say, that Ron Rivera is totally respected, from Sal Palantonio, who we've seen, to Stacey Dales from the NFL Network, to Mike Tirico, all these people that I talked to during the year. I asked them, what is the one constant in the Commanders franchise that you can say is a positive? And without question, some even stopped me before I even finished the sentence. Ron Rivera.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera, right? So again, now you're giving them all these pieces. You got Eric Bieniemy, right? Now what I hope what happens is that you let EB be free.
Yes. Hey. All right. Wait a minute.
I don't let EB be free. Right? This man has earned the job. He's earned the right to call plays without somebody looking over his shoulder, right? Ron, you do your thing. Let EB do his thing. And again, I think that it's going to be at least a respectable year just with that part alone. But no owner's going to come in and get rid of a coach that's well respected. Now, what I do think, and what we all really think is going to happen or should happen, is that Eric Bieniemy is going to get a head coaching job somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if that happens here, we'll see what happens with the ownership group, but not for not for the 2023 season. Mm-hmm. It's already been in place now. He's already started to make some moves. The whole not picking up Chase's option and stuff like that. That's Ron Rivera. If there was going to be some type of Ron Rivera is on the way out, he wouldn't have been standing up there on draft day making calls and everything like that. They would have dumbed that thing down. You know what I'm saying? It would have been a Jason Wright, Martin Mayhew making the call. But it's Ron. You see Ron everywhere, holding up jerseys and everything like that. At least for this year, it's Ron. It's still Ron's team.
Yes, it is.
I mean, read the room, read the nonverbals. Ron's not going anywhere, at least not this year. Now, with Eric Bieniemy and that defense that we just talked about, and Terry McLaurin and all that stuff, if they still have a losing season and they don't look respectable, well, then all bets are off. At that point, you're just like, wow, this is like the 5th, 6th year now. It's not working out, and you got EB sitting right there, right? Yeah. So we'll see. The leash is at least a year. But this ain't no multiple year to figure things out. No, it's this year. It's this year. It's this year.
Yeah. Lou, thank you so much. I'm on a tight time schedule, but Lou, you know you're gonna come back on the show, right? You gonna come back?
You know I can't say no to you. So whenever you want me, I'll come on.
I appreciate it, Lou. Thank you so very much for bringing your insight. We do have another one of our very special guests coming up. Don't say who it is, Lou. Shh, it's a secret. It's all a secret. So, Lou, thank you so much. And I'll be seeing you at Rookie Minicamp.
Yes, I'll see you on the 12th. Take care.
I'll see you on the 12th. All right. See you then, Lou.
All right.
All right. Is everyone still there? Have you hit that love button? Have you shared the show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends? Have you? Have you? Are you all feeling the vibe? Are you all catching the vibe that I was trying to give when I said we're going to do a marathon show? We're going to run through it all and talk about this year's draft Washington Commanders. So you all, this next guest, you all know that she's very, very special to me. I already gave you the she. So you already know it's a woman, all right? So you can go ahead and guess who it is. You can already guess who it is. Yes, it is. It's my Aunt Donna. It's big sister Aunt Donna Hopkins, Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus, legendary sports broadcaster, covered the team in their Super Bowl years. Almost witnessed me jump through the glass at Monday Night Football when I thought Scott Turner was going to go away from running the ball. I almost lost it a little bit talking to Donna, and she's been here every step of the way and knows so much about this team. Hey, Aunt Donna, I know I just saw you on Saturday, but hey.
Hey, Candy, it's good to be with you tonight. You know, as you said, I was with this team when they were winning. That stretch with Coach Gibbs, and went to some Super Bowls with them. So saw them in their glory days, and now in their struggle days. And hopefully that's turning around with the sale of this Commanders team when it happens.
Yes. Some days we don't know what's going on, Donna.
I know and the bottom line is life moves on. So until they put the ink on the paper, it's sign, seal, and deliver. Mm-hmm. You got to move on with this team. And we know that it's going to be sold. We just don't know when. But this team is moving on because we just got finished with the draft.
Yeah, we just got finished with the draft. Now we're going to jump right into questions. I saw a question come through. I can't grab it because the conversation is going so quickly. And all from Queen of Sports to OMG is D-Hop. Just, yes, it is. The real Donna Hopkins is here. And one of my great, wonderful colleagues and friends in the business. Donna, there was a question that came through. And before it was Lake, and then you saw Lou, and now it's you. We talked a little bit about the tight end situation. I know there were some questions about why the team didn't draft a tight end. But what are your thoughts on the current tight end position on the team?
See, I talk to fans all the time about the situation. And a friend of mine, he's the guru of draft, and he said that this team needs a tight end. And I said, I know that Logan Thomas has been hurt over the years, but he was still healing come last year. So we haven't seen him 100% yet. And Logan Thomas is a true tight end. I mean, he's the real deal. And then they drafted guys last year. You've got Bates, and I mean, you've got like 4 tight ends here in the house. That wasn't, even though you might want to replace Logan Thomas because of that salary that he has, you still are in pretty good shape as far as the tight ends. They had so many other positions that they needed to address versus tight end. And I know they're looking at, you're talking about a blocking tight end. Well, you got that. So I don't think that that's an area necessarily that they needed to jump out and grab right now, because offensive line, cornerback, linebacker, those were, to me, positions that they needed to concentrate on more so than a tight end. So I'm okay going into the season with the tight ends that they've got in the house.
Okay, great. And I feel the same way. I said, the Lake and I started chatting, but I know we were on a time crunch. It was, the tight ends weren't utilized. They weren't utilized.
Hey, Candy, let me just say this. How could they be utilized with Scott Turner as the offensive coordinator? Come on, be for real. I mean, this offense was so vanilla that nobody was used the way that they should be used. And now with Eric Bieniemy in-house, they are finally going to be able to utilize the tight ends, the running backs, the wide receivers. I think you're going to see a totally different offense. And looking back, I don't even think that you could kind of like say, okay, the tight ends, do we replace them? No, you don't replace them because you didn't use them because you didn't have an offensive coordinator. And everybody knows how I feel about that. I don't keep that no secret, because all the years that he was here, this team was not good as far as the offensive side of the ball. And they could have had Patrick Mahomes in here and they still wouldn't have been good with him calling the plays.
Yeah, that was rough. It was a rough. Things would be right here, and it was it was rough. Now here's a question that came in. You talked about just a moment ago about other positions of need. So there was a question, I believe, for Russ McCray, who said he's a big fan of yours, that there still seems to be a hole at linebacker. Is this a position not that big of a need, given the emphasis on the Buffalo nickel role? And I know you talked a lot about the traditional role of linebacker, Donna. You've talked to me about that and what that looks like and why it's still important. So what's your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, when you think about this Washington football team down through the years, they've always had strong linebacker play, from the Joe Gibbs era on down the line. And that's an area that's been a hiccup for this team for a long time. They lost Hogum to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he was hurt for the whole season. And Jameson Davis, you saw him come on at the end of the season and play much better. But they still did not address bringing in a big-time linebacker that could, as far as go against the run. The problem with the linebackers over the years is they have not been good as far as coverage of the run, and that's what you need as far as a run stopper. You got the defensive line up front already intact, so you work on the other positions moving back. Well, the linebacker position is just as important as those guys up front, in order to be able to help the guys in the back as far as the cornerback position. So to me, that wasn't addressed, and they couldn't address every position in the draft. And the linebacker, the cornerback position was strong in the draft this year. Not so much the linebacker play, although there was some players in their linebacker. But don't get me started on Michael Parsons, because I wanted him last year, because if we had a Michael Parsons on this team, it would address all the problems at linebacker. We need that type of player at the linebacker position, a Michael Parsons. And they haven't had that type of player in a long time. Jameson Davis, this will be his 3rd year. So you're looking for some big things from him. He started, like I said, to come on a lot at the end of last season, played much better. And he's going to have even a bigger year come his 3rd year. So that's a position, to me, they're going to have to be savvy at, because they haven't addressed that right now. Who replaced Hogum? Nobody yet. So I don't know how they're going to address that situation. And it could be some players before the season comes that other teams let go.
Definitely. And I think another big topic, definitely what's going to happen at linebacker. And then um, everybody's been talking about Chase Young. Let's just the elephant in the room. So I said I wasn't going to talk about this, but I have to because they did pick up some defensive end. They did pick up an edge here and there. And of course, we went from, well, we don't have to make a decision on Chase's 5th-year option until May the 2nd. And then here we go the day before the draft. And it's like, well, not going to pick up his 5th-year option. Today, it becomes official that they are not picking up Chase Young's 5th-year option. Donna, what do you think about all of that and that overall defensive line as a result of what's going into this season?
Hey, Candy, you said nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room. You're talking about the zoo in the room.
The whole
zoo.
I said I wasn't going to do it, but I said, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah, but you know what? When you look at the situation with Chase Young, and if anybody has been in sports with injuries over the years, and you look at Deron Payne's situation, they didn't pick up his year either. They didn't sign that big contract for him either. They basically said, man, you're going to have to show us that you can play. And he could play. But, I mean, he hadn't had his breakout year. So when Deron Payne basically said, and I'm one of those athletes that say, I'm going to show you. Because the thing about it is it's talk. You want to see action. You want to see players go out there and play. Well, Deron Payne did just that. Well, Chase Young has to do that too, because Chase Young has been injured. So why would the Washington Commanders pick up his 5th year? I wouldn't pick it up. So, and it's not saying that Chase Young is not a good player. I mean, he kind of played well in the few games that we saw him in at the end of the season, and we saw him at practice, and he was still favoring that leg a little bit. Wasn't confident in it yet. So I think that the more he played on it towards the end, he got a little more comfortable. But this has to be his breakout year, and this is the reason why the Commanders could not sign him either. He came in injured, knee problems already, where he had injury. So he got injured again, and I had a blown ACL, meniscus tear, and all of that. It takes time to come back from that. And will you be the same player? Not necessarily. You don't have too many Adrian Petersons that can come back and have the type of year that he had. So I understand the process, and people got to get out of their feelings. Even Chase has to get out of his feelings and remember that this is a business, as they constantly tell us, Candy. This is a business. Well, you've got to treat it like a business to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to come back and I'm going to prove to you should have picked up that 5th year, and I'm going to prove to you that you need to give me that big contract. But also, you got to talk about Sweat, who also will be in his last year. Who do you keep? Do you keep both, or do you let somebody go?
That's going to be something else, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you think about Sweat. You saw great flashes of him of oh man, if this guy really have this breakout year and whatever, you can see some great things with his play. But Chase has to just come back and put the noise, close his ears to all the noise, because people get all caught up on they didn't want me, they didn't sign me back. No, you got to come back and say, look, I deserve to be on this roster and I deserve to be paid. And if you think about Deron Payne, he was just quiet for the whole season and just did his job and played ball. He didn't talk. He didn't let the noise affect him. When we interviewed him, he wasn't mad about the situation. No. He just went out and played. And athletes will do that when they want to be paid instead of all caught up in the noise.
Definitely. This is going to be an interesting year for many different reasons, between the sale, this team overall, the play, coming into this season. And I think it's going to be one to watch. It's going to be one to watch. And I think you're going to get your money's worth out of this season, because there's so much riding on this season. Everybody's got to be successful.
Everybody. If we talked about Chase, everybody is on the hot seat this year, because if you've got new owners, you better produce. That's from Ron Rivera, be enemy is be enemy. So we know his play, and he came into a situation that the ownership was changing. But the other people that's been there, the Jack Del Rios, the Ron Rivera's, other players as contracts that are coming to an end, they've got to play, because if they don't play, this new ownership coming in is going to make some house calls. And we know that it happens every time somebody buys a team. If it was my team and my money, I would be saying, I'm going to have everybody is going to be evaluated. So I'm going to be watching everybody's closely. My pen is going to be to the paper, and you better produce, because they're not satisfied with the records that they had over the years. All the excuses need to be thrown out the window. I don't care about you didn't have a quarterback. I don't care about you didn't have an offensive coordinator. I don't care about any of those things. And the new ownership shouldn't either, because they want people to be able to produce, and they better have a winning record, and they better go to the playoff this year, or you're going to see a lot of changes come next year.
Listen, Donna, that's how we go. That's how we gonna end your segment right there. That's it. Donna has dropped the mic on that one. Everybody better go to the playoffs. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to deal with it. It's playoffs or just get out of my office. This is what it sounds like to me.
Get out. It's been good, Candy, always.
Yes, as always. Donna, thank you so much.
Hey, Candy, let me just tell the fans, it's always good in the press box when we're sitting next to each other.
Sometimes I don't be doing too well. I be doing good for the most part, and then
I gotta keep her off the cliff. I gotta keep her off the cliff.
Go ahead and tell. It's fine. I want you to tell that. I have to stay away. I have to be like,
yeah, I gotta take that fan away from her and tell her, don't jump off the cliff.
Don't jump off the cliff. I'd be like, I gotta go.
You can stay on the edge, but just don't go over the cliff. And Candy, in leaving, this Washington Commanders team better stay on the edge and not tip over the cliff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Donna, I know you're going to be out of you're not gonna be at rookie camp. So I'll be
here for the rookie camp, but I won't be here for the veterans camp, because yours truly need a vacation.
Yes, absolutely you do. So I will see you next week at rookie camp.
Definitely.
All righty. All right. See ya.
See ya.
You all check in, hit the love button. Make sure you're still sharing the show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends. You all, guess what? We still got 3 more other people coming. We still have 3 more. We have 3 others still coming. And one, I made the joke earlier. I said, he's been on the show since the beginning. And I've actually seen him commenting in the chat. I'm like, okay, well, all right. You just in here enjoying yourself. And that's good. That's great. I want you to enjoy yourself. I want you to engage. And this is Courtlandt Griffin, you all, from the 3-point conversion. I met Courtlandt at Combine. And Courtlandt and I started just talking about all of the picks, like literally each and every single one. Courtlandt is like a true draft analyst. And so I wanted Courtlandt to come on the show, because I know sometimes with the picks, it's a lot. It's a lot. And Courtlandt has such great knowledge of the players, each pick. So he already know what type of time it is with me. I said, listen, Courtlandt, you got to come and understand. And he's like, girl, I know these people. I know who these people are. You can sit there. I sat with Courtlandt. What was that, Courtlandt? On all of Friday and all of Sunday.
Man, yeah, the first 2 days of the combine.
Yeah, the first 2 days. Yeah.
You had the timeline wrong. We met at the Super Bowl, and
we've been at the Super Bowl. Right. I'm sorry. Super Bowl is all running together. Super Bowl.
That's all right.
I am tripping. What is wrong with me, Courtlandt?
That's
I'm sorry.
Right.
I did meet you at the Super Bowl.
Look, I feel good. You had me on after D-Hop and after Lou Holder. Oh, you know, I'm in red air there. You know what I mean? I feel good.
You lit. And I was just like, let me get Courtlandt on. So you all hit the love button, fire emoji for Courtlandt, because he's going to go through these draft picks. He's going to give us some education on these draft picks.
Right.
So you all can get to know them a little bit more, know what their upsides are, strengths and weaknesses, areas of improvement, all of that. So Courtlandt, however you want to start, I think wherever you want to go with it, Emmanuel Forbes, whatever you want to do.
Let's start at the top.
Yeah.
I've heard you and Lou and everyone talking about, Christian Gonzalez and JPJ and all of those guys. But for all of the fans out here who are wondering who you're getting in Emmanuel Forbes, when I was at the combine, right, we already know what laser times, and you see it on TV, right? Some of the, I'm telling y'all now, the NFL got to do better. They got to do better because some of these guys are not getting their true times. I did hand times. Emmanuel Forbes ran a 4.23 by my hand time. That's fast. That's not a guy who's going to get blown by. And then when you look at his tape, his hips, he's loose, he's limber, he's long, and he's going to play in space. He's going to play well in space. He's a good zone coverage guy as well as a good man coverage guy. And Lou mentioned it, and also Lake mentioned it. This team wasn't very good with turnovers. This guy had 3 pick sixes just last year, 6 in his career. That's an FBS record. So that's what you're getting. And he's also a guy with excellent anticipation. We don't talk about that enough with DBs. He's a guy who can see the route before it happens. He jumps routes a lot. Now, one of the things that hopefully he, once he gets to the NFL, he can put on a little bit more weight. His frame can hold maybe 10, 15 more pounds, maybe get him up there to the 180s, 190s. But he's not a great tackler. So bigger receivers will be able to, kind of muscle him a little bit, but he holds his own. So it's not going to be, he's not going to be Deion Sanders. He's not going to make business decisions. He doesn't shy away from the contact. But he's not going to be the guy that comes up and lays the hat. But that goes to the next pick, Jartavius Martin, a guy who played alongside early pick Devin Witherspoon. I think people need to understand something. When you are talking about a guy who played next to a top 5 pick, top 10 pick at corner, he's on the island by himself, and he held his own. He's also very versatile. We talked about Cameron Curl and some of the durability issues that Cam has had over the years, but this is a guy who played safety as well and had excellent production as well. So I think this is a guy who also plays more like a linebacker in the run game. He's amazing when he sifts through traffic. The way you see him, he uses his hands. He's got good punch, good. He stiffs out and keeps guys off his body. He gets through there really quickly. Hey, Kareem, how you doing? And so you're getting 2 guys to bolster that defensive secondary. Emmanuel Forbes on the other side of Benjamin St. Juste, who's been a standout since his rookie season. Nothing but rave reviews about that guy. And then you get Cam Curl, and then you add in Emmanuel Forbes and Jartavius Martin. It doesn't get better than this. I gave those first 2 picks A's because I thought those were 2 guys that should have been picked way earlier than what they were. And this front office did a heck of a job. I do want to get into these 2 guys though. You guys talked about offensive line, and me and Camden, when we were sitting at the combine, we were talking about some of the guys that we thought, hey, this is a guy that they could target. This is a guy they should target. Rick Stromberg is an interesting prospect, to say the least. He's a guy with excellent versatility along the interior offensive line. He can play either guard spot, and he can also play center. But the great thing about this is he wasn't even touted as the best center in the draft, yet he was the best offensive lineman voted by the SEC, best offensive lineman. He got the best offensive lineman award as a center. And this is a guy who only played center for 1 season. So this is the guy that you're getting. You're getting a hog up front. You're getting a guy with excellent versatility, but he should plug into that center spot and play pretty well. This also helps out your young guy, Sam Howell, right, who needs that Peyton Manning, Jeff Saturday kind of connection. The people talk about the tight end being a quarterback's best friend and the running game being a quarterback's best friend. When you have a center that you can mesh with and you can call signals and he's helping you with protection, it makes that quarterback's job way much easier, very easy. And Braden Daniels, he's a guy who's listed as a guard but can play tackle. Think Donald Penn, right? He has shorter arms, 33-inch arms, but Donald Penn played right tackle for 13 seasons in the NFL, very productively, right? Back in 2016, he only allowed 1 sack, and Donald Penn did. So now you're getting Braden Daniels, who's cut from that same mold. Played interior offensive lineman, can kick outside to tackle. I think he can compete for one of those tackle positions. This is a guy who's very versatile. Don't feel like you didn't address a need. Believe me, your front office did the homework. Braden Daniels is just as much a tackle as he is an offensive lineman. So yes, and Ron Rivera, if you look at Ron Rivera's track record, when even in Carolina, he's very good at picking offensive linemen. For a defensive-minded coach, he's a very good offensive lineman evaluator. So this is a guy that you get. He has good squat. He's good in the zone run, which is going to help those running backs in the backfield, which we're going to get to one that you guys drafted in a couple of minutes. And so this is just a very interesting draft. I saw a lot of guys with a lot of versatility. It seemed like you guys, the Washington Commanders, emphasize versatility over talent-wise. Not saying that these guys don't have talent, but versatility. Having guys that can do and fit multiple roles and multiple schemes, I think was an amazing thing. Speaking of versatility, KJ Henry, you guys were talking about veteran leadership. Who's going to be the veteran in that locker room if you cut Kendall Fuller or Kyle Fuller? It could be KJ Henry. I love Cam, right? I don't think Cam is anything to scoff at. Like I said, I think he has the moxie and respect to lead that team. But KJ Henry, he's a team captain at Clemson. Now, you guys understand, being a team captain on teams like Michigan, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, that means something. That means you are a leader of men, because those are winning programs that have a lot of talent on them. So for you to be voted as a captain means a lot. He's a smart player, has leadership intangibles. Dabo Swinney had nothing but great reviews to say about this kid. At the ACC kickoff when we interviewed him, his parents, he's very big on respect. His parents are raised him right. So I think this is a guy who can come in. He's a Ron Rivera guy. He's that peak leadership mold. And I love that for the Washington Commanders, because if you guys are looking for a leader to come in within the first 3 years and be that leader, this is your guy. He's a disruptive, lightning quick first step. He can play the run very well, high motor guy. And I think this defense needed that. When you got guys who are, I'm not going to say fragile, but have missing time, you need that guy that can come in and give those guys breathers. And this also helps Chase be more effective, because you can take them out on certain downs and put KJ in and move guys around, and it helps with the scheme. So I really like the KJ Henry pick for sure. Chris Rodriguez Jr., I'm just going to run through him really quickly, right? 3-year starter at Kentucky, powerful runner. He gets better as the game goes on. This is going to help those guys like Antonio Gibson and Robinson and the other running backs on this team. It's going to help those guys, because this is a guy who you can plug in on fourth down when it gets cold in Washington. And you got to play in those colder climates, and you don't want to keep running and pounding 1 or 2 guys. You got to have 3 or 4 guys to run through teams. This is a guy that does it, gets better. He's a touchdown machine. He had 3 seasons where he had 9, 11, and 8 touchdowns in college in the SEC at Kentucky. that says something. He's running against some of the top defenses. So and he's durable. He's always available. Antonio Gibson has been kind of fragile over the last couple of seasons. This is a guy who's not going to miss a lot of time. This is a guy who's a power running back who doesn't miss him a lot of time. And I'm going to give him some high praise here. Think a la Derrick Henry. The only thing that stopped Derrick Henry was a foot injury. So this is that kind of guy. He's a power bell cow kind of back. I'm not going to say he's going to be Derrick Henry, but he's not going to miss a lot of time. He's going to be dependable. He's going to be there. And he's going to be productive. He's going to be very productive. I want to talk about their last pick, Andre Jones. He's a developmental guy. I think every team needs that 1 or 2 guys that you can come in and bring in and develop. And Andre Jones is that. He has all the tools to be a productive player in the NFL. He's long, he's rangy, he's strong. He can add a couple of pounds to his frame. And I think if you can't sign Montez Sweat this year or re-sign him, I think you can bring in Andre Jones and he can fill in that spot very well. They kind of cut from the same mold. And I love how he plays the game. He's raw, but he plays the game with a passion that you don't really see from a lot of early round picks, because they've depended on their talent so much. But this is a guy who was productive. He only had 2 years of production at Louisiana, but he was very productive in those seasons, 6.5 and 6 sacks at the college level. So this is a guy who I think Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio will have a lot of fun with because of his skill set. And you talked about it at the beginning of the show, Candy. You put up the list of undrafted free agents, and I think those guys deserve a lot of love too, because a lot of those guys, it wasn't that they weren't good enough. It's just the fact that the crop was so deep this year that a lot of guys didn't get drafted. I want to talk about 2 guys that you guys brought in, that the Commanders brought in. Jalen Sample, 6'5", monster of a receiver. He's a very slender receiver right now, but he can put on some more muscle. He's listed at 205 right now at 6'5". I think he can go up to 215, 220. He can definitely be a developmental guy. Solid hands, 4.5 speed, explosive type of athlete with prototypical size. At his floor, he'll be a red zone target. That's at his floor. His ceiling, he's going to be a big slot receiver. Think T. Higgins, right? Who T. Higgins has definitely, now made himself an outside receiver. But beginning of his career, he was a big slot receiver. That's what this kid Jalen Sample can be. I see a lot of things and a lot of talent in there. And then I want to talk about Kendall Smith. He's another Illinois product. Played with Devin Witherspoon. Played with one of your draft picks, Jartavius Martin, in that defensive backfield. He's a wide receiver convert. 5 interceptions last year at Illinois. He's more of a box safety than he's going to be like a back end free safety. So that's going to be a guy that can develop and get some playing time and maybe work himself into a starting spot to help alleviate some of that pressure off of Cam Curl. As he matures and learns the position a little bit more, this is going to be a guy that may be looked at as a steal going forward in this draft. And I give you guys like an A- in this draft. I think you guys addressed a lot of needs. We talked about, like I said, at the combine, we talked about some of the guys we thought you guys could draft. None of those guys were drafted by you guys, but but a lot of good picks. This is going to be one of those drafts that they make a 30 for 30 about years from now and say this is a draft that got 4 or 5, 6 starters out of. And I think this is a draft that Ron Rivera and this coaching staff and this front office should be proud of.
So you all that are watching, if you haven't hit the love button or dropped the fire emoji yet, I need you to do that, because now you all know why I spend so much time talking to Courtlandt. At Super Bowl, my bad, Courtlandt.
It's all right.
And at the combine, I mean, the education, and he knows what he's talking about. And you all know me, I like talking to people that are smart. And so he's extremely smart, and I do appreciate you hopping on to share all of your great and wonderful knowledge. It's much appreciated. And Courtlandt, you already know I'm going to ask you to come on again.
Oh, I'm always available anytime.
All right. Well, thank you, and I'm going to see you again soon. All right, you all, are you still locked in? How are you feeling now? After you all see, I wanted to, so you all know this is by design. I want to have all of the content, all of those things, but are you good with now knowing a little bit more about each one of the draft picks? Are y'all good with that? Just let me know, are you good with that? So, you all, we're moving right along. We're absolutely moving right along. The next guest is already here. So I want to go ahead and just bring him in. We have 2 more. We absolutely have 2 more. But I'm going to bring this next guest right on in, if you don't mind. Can you guess who it is? Well, I'll just go ahead, because at this point, y'all are probably like, I have no idea. Who's coming next? Hi, David. Can you hear me?
Hey, what's up?
Locked On Commanders host David Harrison. You all have seen me on his show just last week, and David and I have been working together since last summer. Just talking about practice, talking about everything, you name it. David is super duper smart. I like smart people. And so he's smart. And so David, just to give you like a little, because I didn't even tell all of the guests who was going to be on the show, just to be, because that's just me. So Lake has been on, Lou has been on, Donna has been on, and you just heard Courtlandt Griffin, and now it's you. And I'm not going to tell who the last person is because we kind of switched. And so I'm happy you're here, though. I'm happy you're here. It's okay. But hey, my friend, have you recovered from draft weekend? How you feeling?
I'm feeling okay now. I'm not gonna lie, I did sleep 10 hours, and I usually sleep like 6 to 7 hours a night, but I did. So I got back to my house Sunday afternoon, and then I did some writing. I did Locked On Commanders. I did Locked On Bucks. I went to bed probably about 2:00 in the morning when everything was said and done, and I just turned off my alarm. I said, I usually get up at 7:30. I said, you know what? I need a night of just sleep, and I slept for 10 hours. So obviously I needed it after that weekend, but excited for what's to come.
Yeah, I'm excited too. This is going to be great. This is going to be really, really good. And I think we're all caught up on rest, hopefully only to probably be sleep deprived going forward. So at any rate, we're going to hop right on into questions. Let me see. Now I've picked out some questions.
Okay.
Based on what has come in so far. And so we have this one where I think this is from Lamar Bland. It says, we currently have 4 capable centers: Chase Roulier, Nick Gates, Tyler Larsen, Ricky Stromberg. That's either an embarrassment of riches or an overreaction to the injuries we've had there in recent years. Is it safe to say that Roulier is a post-June 1st designation, saving the team $8 million? David, what's your thoughts?
I think that's probably that's probably the accurate assessment, right? That I think that's where we're all kind of going with this whole thing is Chase Roulier. Look, it's hard to come back from one serious injury. It's even harder to come back from 2 serious injuries. And I know recently there were photos going out there. I think you might have been the first person to share them with me, that there were photos of him working out, at the team facility and all those things. And that's great. Chase has always been a really good part of the team, just from what I can tell. And then last year, getting to know him, the very little that I did get to interact with him before he suffered another injury. It's kind of heartbreaking to see those kinds of things happen, right? But we see this time and time and time again. I think I'm going to show my age a little bit, but I always kind of go back to like Kajana Carter coming out of Penn State, was supposed to be like the next big running back in the National Football League. And the way that I described it is just sometimes our bodies don't agree with our career decisions, and it's unfortunate when that kind of thing happens and you look at a guy and say, what could have been, or what if all this. Now, is this stacking of centers, so to speak, an overreaction to injuries? I don't think it's an overreaction to injuries, because at the end of the day, if you have 3, 4 even capable starting centers on your roster, that is a problem that every NFL team would absolutely love to have. Because at the end of the day, if you end up with 3 or 4 starting centers on your roster, that's trade capital for future moves if you need to in the NFL draft, or getting other players at the trade deadline from another team, or it's future compensatory picks when you develop a guy and you see him get signed away from your team because you're set at the position. So you get a future 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round compensatory draft pick, whatever it turns out to be. I think what the Washington Commanders they have a good mix of experience and potential, right? Ricky Stromberg brings a lot of potential as a potential future starting center. I think right now you have to kind of pencil in Nick Gates as that starting center. He's had experience there. He's played within division. He's seen the Eagles before. He's seen the Cowboys before. Now he's going to see John Allen and Daron Payne a lot more than he has before, and that's only going to make him better. And then Tyler Larsen, he's a solid dude, right? He's a guy that when you put him on the field, he's not the best center in the National Football League, but you know what you're going to get from him. There's really not going to be a lot of surprises. He's not going to do something crazy that just derails everything. He's not this loose cannon that not only is going to get limited reps, but then when he's on the field, he might get you 2 15-yard penalties on top of it. So you always want that kind of a guy. And unfortunately it does. It looks like Chase Roulier, if you had to look at that list of 4 guys and say, here's the guy that's on his way out, it's probably Chase.
Yeah, it's kind of looking that way, but that's definitely a question and something that we need to continue to watch for sure as time goes on. Here's another question about an undrafted free agent. And I know you know about these way more than that. I was like, okay, David gets this one. Assuming he will be asked to try his hand in receiving punts, is he the only legitimate option the team has at kick return, punt return? Will we see Jahan Dotson take a crack at those duties this year also? And I mean, we know that Coach Bieniemy brought in Marcus Kemp, who did some of that at Kansas City as well. I've always toyed around with the fact that it was kind of like, just put your fastest person back there. But, but what do you think, David?
I don't think that Jahan Dotson is going to be a primary plan to be a punt returner or a kick returner anytime soon. Like, he'll continue getting reps. I think Candy in training camp, we'll see him going back there and fielding just like he was last year. But I think that's going to be an emergency plan. That's if 2 or 3 guys go down and they just don't have a choice, then they put him out there. I don't see that becoming a primary option for them. I still like Antonio Gibson as a kick returner right now. If you look at the roster, I still like AG being that primary guy. Again, Brian Robinson Jr. is supposed to be your primary back. He's kind of the first guy on the field. And I think that's going to continue to be the plan there unless someone really comes in and pushes him out of the way. I think the position you're really looking for is the punt return position, and Dax Milne versus a guy like Kaz Allen. And yeah, Kaz Allen is a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing kind of in real life. Like I want to see him up close and personal and see what the wheels look like when we're standing on the sideline. So here in a couple of weeks when we get to see him at the rookie mini camp, he's going to be one of the first guys that I'm looking forward to seeing. Smaller in stature. And look, in a lot of facets of football today, the smaller stature can almost be a problem. But when you're talking about kick returners and punt returners, that small stature guy, that 5'8" guy can get lost in the weeds really, really quickly. And when you're a defensive player screaming down the sideline, screaming down the field, trying to navigate through all the traffic and the blockers and your own teammates are in the way, that guy, Kaz Allen, he hits a lane and gets a cut, he could be gone in a heartbeat. So I'm really excited to see what he might be able to do. I'm not going to go as far as to predict that he unseats Dax Milne. But I think, a lot of people are really anxious to see Dax Milne get replaced. And I kind of understand you want the excitement in the return game and special teams. And surely the team would love to have that if they can find it. But there is something to be said about a guy that simply goes out there, waves his arm in the air, and catches the football. If you go back to the Commanders' win against the Green Bay Packers, it's possible that win doesn't happen if their return specialist doesn't fumble punts. Like, he can't catch the ball. Like, just the idea of just standing there and catching the ball to some people is a little bit more difficult. So I wouldn't be so quick necessarily to get Dax Milne kicked out of that position. There is something to the fact that he can at least field every punt cleanly. But if you can find that excitement out of a guy like Kaz Allen, you certainly want to get it.
I knew the Kaz Allen question was a David Harrison question. I was like, yes, this can go to David. Yeah. For sure. This is another David Harrison question, I think, as well, because David, you were the one who really gave us the kind of backstory a bit with KJ Henry and Ryan Kerrigan, having coached him at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. And getting some opportunity to interact with KJ there. So what are your thoughts on KJ Henry being more of a rotational piece along the defensive line, or is this a special teams ace? What do you think?
No, he's definitely going to get on the field. Like, KJ Henry is going to get some burn in 2023. You're going to see him on the field. Now, I'm not going to go as far as say like 40%, 45% snaps or anything like that. But like if an injury comes up, I think, is he going to replace James Smith-Williams as kind of as that third defensive end on the field behind Montez Sweat and Chase Young? I don't know that I would go that far right away. Is it possible? Sure, it's absolutely possible. The kid has the talent. He has the potential. You have to believe that Ryan Kerrigan had a voice in them deciding to go ahead and use a draft pick on him again. He got his hands on him for a full week. I mean, we're there in Mobile for 3 days of practices, and then you have the game. But people have to understand, those players come in. I think they're there for a full day, maybe 2, before we even get our first crack at seeing them. They have meetings. They go through study. The coaches give them homework, and they come back and kind of see how they do with that homework. And speaking to Coach Kerrigan, when we were in Mobile, we actually got a chance to ask him and say, is it more important to see what you want on the field, or is it more important seeing what you see out of these guys off the field? And he immediately, I think Travell Wharton said the exact same thing. The Commanders' offensive or future, soon to be offensive line coach, now assistant offensive line coach, said the same thing. It's more about seeing, are they on time? Do they come with energy? Are they studious? Do they pay attention in film work? On the practice field, they're receptive to doing the things that these coaches ask them to do. So again, you get a week with this guy. So for KJ Henry to be an upper half of the draft pick for the Washington Commanders, you have to understand that Coach Kerrigan absolutely wanted him and wanted to bring that kid in. And that experience, that familiarity, a lot of times these rookies come in, it's like first day of school, first day on campus type of scenario. But guess what? When KJ Henry steps foot into Ashburn and he sees Coach Kerrigan, boom, he's immediately more comfortable than your average rookie. Now, again, I'm not going to say he's your starting defensive end in 2023 by any means, but I do expect him to be either your first guy off the bench ahead of James Smith-Williams. If not, he's going to be right behind him. I think that's a realistic expectation for KJ Henry as a rookie.
Very, very cool. And David, last question for you before I let you go for this segment, only to just hint that you'll be back when I bring the show back in the fall. But what are some things you're going to be looking for at rookie camp? I know you already mentioned Kaz Allen, but what are some things you're going to be looking for?
Yeah, I really like seeing how the coaches interact with the rookies, right? Because this is really their first opportunity to get their hands on these guys. And then you look at the tryout players and the UDF phase, and it's really kind of interesting dynamic to kind of watch and see how do they interact with the coaches, how do they take with the coaches, tell them how quickly they adjust. Now, it's a little bit hard to pinpoint sometimes because you're not going to get widespread changes. You're not going to have a coach come out there, and it's really not wise to say, okay, I saw you one rep in, I'm going to recreate everything that you do as a player. But remember, these guys watch hours and hours and hours of film on these players. And now that they have their draft class, they're busy studying. Like, there's a reason, I don't know how many fans understand this, but the NFL allows teams to operate their rookie mini camps the weekend following the draft, which would be this Friday, Saturday, Sunday coming up, or the following weekend, which is next Friday, Saturday, Sunday coming up. Well, the Commanders, just like a lot of other teams, choose to use that second weekend following the NFL draft. But that doesn't mean that they're going on vacation. Like, Ron Rivera and his staff aren't just going out golfing or hanging out at the pool for the next 2 weeks. They're studying their players. They're getting a game plan put together and a rubric, really kind of a lesson plan ready for these young guys to come in. And as soon as they come in, for some of these guys, especially these tryout guys, you really only have that weekend to decide whether or not you want to offer this guy a contract, keep him on the roster, into OTAs, into training camp, or do we need to find a replacement? So you don't want to throw too much at him, but you do want to see. If I tell this guy, hey man, instead of bouncing off your front foot when you come off the line of scrimmage under this release, I need you to roll off the heels. Does he ever do it? Does he do it after the first time? Does it take 3 times? Those are the kinds of things these coaches, I think, want to look at and see how moldable these young guys are. And that's something that I like to look at as well, because if you see a coach getting a little heated with a UDFA early on, you might not see his name on the list when OTAs come around.
David, I can't wait to do this whole rookie mini camp with you all next week. I hope the weather holds up, because of course that's my main concern. I hope it's not raining, but at any rate, it's more to come. It'll be a great time. Let's hope, like some of the other between Lake and Donna and Lou, this is a big year for the team for many different reasons. So we'll be there. Keeping a watch on everything going on. David, thank you so much for hopping on. I appreciate you. And I'm sure we'll be talking about something else this week, but I'll see you next week for sure. All
right. Talk to you soon.
All right. See ya. All righty, Commanders fans, we got one more. Love button, fire emoji. If you got enough energy in you to listen to one more. And here's the thing. I wanted to make sure when we do the draft recap, yes, of course, please listen to me and please listen to what I have to say in terms of the players and what is happening, what's going on. But I said, you know what? Let's get my colleagues in on this, because we've been talking all weekend, and let's just talk it through. And I also think it's helpful. Let me know. I think it's helpful for you all as well. I hope so, to get the education, the insight, education, you name it, on the players and just overall what's going on, so we can have those conversations, because we got to keep this thing on. Now, you all, for the next guest, let me just share with you all, this had to be recorded. So funny enough, I was like, well, maybe I should have did that first, because we had to record it earlier because he could not come on. But let's go ahead, and I'm going to play this for you all. Check it out. Hey, you all. So the marathon continues, and I'm here with another one of my amazing Washington Commanders media colleagues, Sam Fortier of the Washington Post. Before we recorded this, I was like, hey, Sam, I hope this is painless. I hope this is painless. I hope I'm fun to talk to. Just we're going to all be normal.
Yeah, and I said there's no pain involved when talking to CWall. I always enjoy chopping it up with you.
All right, well, good. That makes me feel good. So, have you recovered from NFL draft week in, weekend? How are you holding up?
I mean, I didn't get up till about 10:30 on Sunday morning, and I'm not one of our colleagues that, I feel like has kids or any of those, crazy obligations. So I slept in. I felt good about that. I'm back in the office today, as you can see. So it's back to it for sure, but I got a little bit of a nice rest after what is a pretty crazy, hectic weekend.
Yeah, it was wild. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go grab a drink. I'm going to go grab a glass of champagne. I saw John Kimes tweet about what you think it's going to be and what it actually is. And so I just passed out when I got home because I went to the draft party. So I wasn't in Ashburn with you all on Saturday. I was at the draft party and then I was still like, I can't, I'm going to bed.
I feel like when you hit that 7th round and you're like, oh, like they made their final pick and you're like, oh, I'm good. But then after the press conference, and then, there's 2 press conferences because Senior Director of Player Personnel Eric Stokes goes, as well as Martin and Ron. Then you're like, wait, I got to start grinding on these undrafted free agents. And they're signing, obviously they announced 12 of them today. So, trying to track those down and just using, twiddling those thumbs on the phone.
So, Sam, let's get into that. The research, the tweeting, just everything, and having to kind of plan out. And we've done, we had a mock draft game that we were trying to play that didn't go all that well, at least in my opinion. But I was like, okay, but mock drafts are so difficult. And then we see in real life why they're so difficult, because you really can't call it sometimes. So what's your overall synopsis of how you think the Commanders did this year on the draft?
Yeah, I think it was a solid class. They targeted a lot of guys similar to how they did last year. They played a lot of college football. They played in the bigger conferences. You saw in the first 3 picks, guys from the SEC or the Big Ten, the best conferences, older guys, multiple years of production. So you know what you're getting. They didn't have any of these high upside, super athletic, 1-year breakouts like they maybe chose with Jamin Davis or Benjamin St. Juste or Antonio Gibson. None of those projects at that same level. A lot of guys who are expected to step in, contribute right away as Ron Rivera fights for his job in 2023.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, right? It was, going through free agency. We know that a sale is pending. It was like, okay, are they going to make a big splash? Can they make a big splash? So do you think that the Commanders did enough for Ron Rivera to fight for his job in 2023-2024 season?
I mean, when I look back at this whole offseason, go back to the coaching hiring cycle, go back to free agency and the draft, I think that they attacked their greatest weaknesses on offense. New offensive coordinator, new quarterback, remade offensive line. And I think that personally, I could see that being more quantity than quality in terms of the additions that they've made. But I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, and we'll see come training camp what this really looks like. On defense, obviously, you were disappointed in Chase Young, so you declined his 5th-year option, hoping to give him motivation. You retained Deron Payne, keeping the defensive line of strength, and then you said, okay, we were 28th in the NFL in turnovers generated last year. We only had 9. So we are going to go out and get a ball-hawking cornerback. And yes, he might be lighter than most of the people in your life at 166 pounds and look much skinnier than an NFL player usually does, but he does the thing that we need to do. And so we are going to go get him and go get another defensive back in the 2nd round. So I think they have attacked those needs. Have they addressed them with players quality enough to make the strides that he'll need to make to keep his job? That remains to be seen.
Were there any surprises for you from free agency, everything that's happened free agency, right? From them signing Deron Payne as soon as the first opportunity they had, to who they picked up, to declining Chase Young's 5th-year option, which is now officially official, and who they picked up in this draft class. Any surprises for you?
I think keeping Deron Payne before they did it was a surprise, because I didn't think that they would be able to keep all 4, but defensive linemen. But when you do extend him because he had such a great year, it made it likelier that they would decline Chase Young's 5th-year option. And the way you set that up, the way CWall that I've been thinking about this whole offseason is how do they maximize the number of wins in 2023? Because that's the thing that Ron Rivera is going to need to do to have a good audition for this new owner. And so when you think about it through that prism, I think a lot of these line up. And so now the next question is, at the presser after day 3 of the draft, Martin Mayhew said the draft is not a finish line. We are not done. And they said that last year, but they really didn't make that many other moves. The only year that Ron's been here that they've made significant moves after the draft was in 2021 when they picked up Charles Leno, the left tackle, and Bobby McKay, the defensive back. And they only have $2.4 million in cap space right now. So it's like if they are going to make a move, if there aren't quality players out there, if there are quality players out there, are they going to have the cap space to sign them? So I think that now we could be talking about, do they restructure or release center Chase Roulier? Do they restructure or release cornerback Kendall Fuller? Both of those guys, you would only take on about $3.5 million in dead cap, and you would save $8 million plus for both of those guys. So I think that they've done a lot. I think they could do more. It just is how do things shake out after the draft?
I mean, it's like you said, it's kind of almost, you hate to say you wait and see, and you hate to say it depends, but it kind of but that's where we are. That's what we have to do. So in comparison, the Commanders to the rest of the NFC East, right? Everyone knows what Philly is doing. Philly, I feel like, is making a statement. They're trying to go back to the Super Bowl, over there mad and angry, like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? Where do you think the Commanders kind of fared in their draft against the rest of the division?
That's a good question. And I do think it's funny that the Eagles seem intent on rebuilding the 2021 Georgia defense in the same way that the Commanders were intent for a time on rebuilding the Alabama defense, not just with Duran and John, but also Landon Collins and some others as well. I think the Cowboys had a solid draft. They added pieces, particularly with the Michigan defensive tackle they took in the first round. I totally can see that guy eating up double teams to keep Micah Parsons and their other talented defenders clean to keep them in the backfield. But the Giants also made sense to me, but I just think that they are due for some regression considering how good they were in one-score games, considering how much I think the ball bounced their way last year. And that's not to take away from them at all. I just think when you look at some of their statistics, you say, I don't know if a team can maintain this over time. So I think, as you said, the Eagles, I thought had a great draft, particularly I think getting the best player in the draft at the 9th pick in Jalen Carter, the Georgia defensive tackle. But I mean, when you stack up, I think everybody, when you look at the first round picks of everybody, with the Giants and the Cowboys and the Eagles, it's all about getting to the quarterback and providing weapons for your quarterback. So that's the prism through which I looked at this, and I think Washington's going to have a stiff competition in the NFC East this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it's like the Eagles have clearly made a statement. Okay, fine. All right. But you never know how those things go. And so, yeah, it's going to be stiff. It's not going to be as easy as anybody thinks it is. But it's never easy, right? So I guess it remains to be seen. So now moving forward, Sam, last one for you. What are some of the things you're going to be looking for when we attend rookie minicamp next week? Yeah, that's next week, right? Yeah, next week.
For full transparency, I will not be at rookie minicamp because my sister.
What are you talking about, Sam?
I know. I feel like a heretic for saying it, but my sister been working hard, 5 years of college. She is graduating from the University of Missouri.
Yay!
So thank you very much. I'm very proud of her. So I will not be there. But the things that I am curious about to hear from you all is, how does Emmanuel Forbes look running around? Do they try him in they're not going to do too much, but the thing I'm curious about, even beyond that, is what does he look like in press coverage against bigger receivers? Obviously this division has big receivers like AJ Brown being probably the prime example. Just big dudes, and so I want to know how fluid he is. And then I think with Quan Martin, the second round pick out of Illinois, where do they line him up? I mean, he's a nickel, he's a single high safety. They're going to use that versatility, but where do they see him primarily? And then how does he fit in with Cam Curl and Derek Forrest? I'm curious to see also Braden Daniels, the 4th round pick out of Utah. He's he profiles as a guard tackle, but at 294, he's one of the lightest. He was one of the lightest offensive linemen in the draft. So can he put on a little bit extra weight, especially if they see him at tackle? I know that tackles can be a little lighter because you're not, fighting in the phone booth like a guard or a center. But do they like him at that size? And I'd particularly be curious to see some reps against KJ Henry, the Clemson defensive end from the 5th round, who I think was a pretty good value pick at that position.
Awesome. Well, Sam, I won't see you. Now, I know that at rookie minicamp, but I'll see you at OTAs and the rest of the summer and all that. Listen, thank you so much for answering the call when I said I want some of my friends to come on the show with me, please. And thank you so much for always saying yes whenever I ask. So I appreciate you, and I will talk to you again soon.
Of course. Appreciate you having me, CWall. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, you all. We made it. I told you all it was going to be a marathon. I told you all we were going to get through it all, and we absolutely did. So you all listen. Like I said, May 12th is when it all starts over again with rookie minicamp and then OTAs and veteran minicamp. You all bookmark this show. Keep this show because it's so many gems and nuggets all here. So you want to make sure you don't miss anything. Now, we're going to still be bringing you content. You all know I'm slated not to do shows again, full shows until August, but you never know what may happen. But we'll definitely still be circulating a lot of content on Bowie Television, on the CWall pages. Make sure you join the CWall email list. Go to www.cwallse.com and join the email list so that you're up to date with all the content and everything that's going to be going on as we are very closely tracking this very important season for the Washington Commanders. Did you all enjoy it? Did you get all of the Commanders content you could have ever asked for after the draft? Make sure you share this show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends. It was a lot of content here. I know sometimes people reach out to me and ask me questions. I do believe all the questions that you have, at least up until this point, until we get into rookie minicamp, have all been answered on this show. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'll be talking to you all again